host, Elenique Marie, and with me, the one and the only Miss Crystal Ann Compton. And today we are talking about the Kybalion, chapters 9 and 10. Yeah. so before we begin, I want to honor the feedback that we have gotten on this book, we really appreciate it, both from those of you that really were happy that we went into this very difficult book because it did help you to grasp and understand certain concepts that you had not understood previous, and also those of you that shared with us that you were overwhelmed with the book and that it was just too much. It was too much. It was too difficult. And honestly, you had no idea what we were talking about. And I want to thank you for that because we also had no idea what we were talking about. No, we also had a hard time. We had to prepare so much for these episodes, and even then felt a lot of times out of our depth. So today's episode is going to be different because what we want is we want to talk about these concepts in a way that is usable, that is inspirational, and that actually is able to create change at multiple levels of being. Because just reading the book creates a change. I feel like it's almost like a channeling, right? It's almost like this activation. But if you are not even reading the book, just hearing about the ideas seeps in and awakens a memory of what you already knew, what you know, because it's a part of you, right? It's what you're made of. So today we're going to talk about vibration and polarity. And we're really going to do it just very briefly to say that this is a reiteration of a lot of what we already studied. It's the idea that all things are vibratory, everything is vibration, and how we move along the pole of the polarity between, let's say, love and hate or happy, sad, is by changing our vibration. The higher the vibration, the lighter and the higher and the more joyous the state. And the lower the vibration, the heavier, the more matter, the more earthly the result. And so if you want to shift your life and there's something that you don't like, step one is to look at that vibration and ask yourself, how am I vibrating right now? And what is that vibration attracting? And then how can I inch my way along that polarity, which is all one thing, right? Temperature is just temperature. Hot and cold are extremes of that temperature. So how can I go from sad to happy? By slowly moving myself, or maybe even quickly moving myself, depending on, how open you are and how ready for change you are. So today, Crystal, it's going to take us through an amazing worksheet experience that she created and that we are going to post in the Facebook group, where she's going to teach us about how to move vibration in the body, vibration in the mind, and vibration in the spirit, so that you can ascend and be in a joyous state, in a state of flow, in a state of allowing. And so we hope that you're going to find these useful. We hope that you will tell us about how it went when you utilize them. We will have them in our Facebook group. So if you are not a member of our Facebook group yet, please join. It's Miraculous Thinking. You can find us on Facebook, and we have some other resources there for you as well. And if you're watching us on YouTube and you haven't already subscribed to our channel, please go ahead and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us be able to continue to create this great content that we hope you enjoy. And I think that's everything that I needed to say. Crystal, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, no, not really. I think that I want to say that Elenique and I share your general sentiments about this book. This feels like a magical book, but this has been kind of a difficult adventuring within the pages of this book, and there's also a lot of repetition. So I did feel like we had some space, since we went over these concepts already, of vibration chapter 9 and also polarity chapter 10. We've already discussed this. We kind of already understand it. And we just thought it would be better to kind of simplify and, as you say, make some of these concepts usable, things that we can actually do in our life right now that'll make some substantial changes in our vibration. And the way you know that you are changing your vibration from low to high is that it feels really good. It does, because you're
Yes.
getting closer, you see, to spirit. You're getting closer to God. And the closer you get to God, the more of God's power, the more of God's beauty, the more of God's love you feel inside of yourself, and the more of that love shows up in your life. And that's how you know. So, joy and bliss and humor and fun and inspiration and motivation, all of these are just words for God. These all come from God. And so, we want to push ourselves along this polarity towards this love and this joy. And we do that through the modification of our own vibration. And let me just explain before we get into it that we are comprised, every human being is comprised of three parts. Guess what those parts are? Well, you already mentioned them. So they already know it's body, mind, and spirit. And I actually regard these as our triune aspects or our trinity aspects. They make up the whole or the one of who we are, but each aspect plays such an important role in the all or in the whole or in the one that we are. And any change that you make in any of the aspects, no matter how minute or how large, always affects the other aspects. So what we're going to be doing right now is we're going to be going through some of the changes we can make in the body and then the mind and the spirit that'll shift our vibration and not just change that body, mind, and spirit, but it'll change everything else as well. So we want you to kind of think for yourself if there's anything here that you can do right now, any little change that you can make right now, because you'd be amazed how much it'll shift everything for you. And that is what we want to get into. Now, before we do, however, Elenique, we got a letter. And I thought we should get into this letter and read it and have a little small little conversation before we get into vibration modification. Would that be okay?
Absolutely.
Okay. We received a letter from Patricia, and Patricia is wonderful. Thank you for writing in. We love getting your letters, by the
Thank you,
way, and
Patricia.
your questions. We love your comments on YouTube.
Hmm.
We are excited to receive them. And if you want to write us, if you have a question or a comment, you can do that at miraculousthinking@gmail.com. Patricia says, Dear Elenique and Crystal, thank you for the gift of the Kybalion. We love somebody who calls it a gift.
Thank you.
It did present itself at the correct time in my life. I listened to the entire book and am now reading it. Amazing how chapters that were once mind-boggling now make sense to me. I wanted to share my thoughts with you both on the mind. I know Crystal wanted her God. And from an experience that I went through some 20 plus years ago, I can happily say I can give Crystal her God when speaking about the mind. Patricia says, I was crossing the street after my class at the University of Washington, and a young man who had been drinking hit me, and my body flew up in the air, and I landed on the street on my back. Wow. A lovely lady, who may have been a guardian angel, was holding my hand when I returned to my body. She told me I had been without a pulse for 5 minutes. When my soul left my body, rising out of my heart chakra, I was surrounded by this beautiful divine light. My soul's mind knew this divine vibration of pure divine love. I knew I was home. There was no fear, simply joy and pure bliss. God gave me my soul when He created me, and along with my soul, He gave my soul a divine mind so I would know that I was home, safe, and loved. I hope that explanation resonates. Thank you both again for this wonderful podcast. Patricia, what do you think of that, Elenique?
I love it. I love that story. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And I couldn't agree more. I do believe that we know that, that there's this knowing, this higher self that is within all of us and is the truth of who we are. The eternal part. This is also true, but it's temporal, right? It's a vehicle for learning. It's an aspect of being. But I think that, you know, we will all know that peace when we're reunited with the full awareness, when the story and the illusion of this Maya, of this earth plane, when our vibration once again becomes as high as it can be, we'll be reunited with that, with all that knowledge and all that peace and joy.
Yes, as the Kybalion says, we're ever moving upward, upward on the spiral, returning
Yes.
home. And I love this idea of calling the soul or calling this aspect of soul a mind. And it really, sometimes we say mind and we think, oh, analysis, or we think
Yeah.
interpretation, or we think organization. But no, it really is, just as you said, it is a knowing, it is a resonance, kind of like you, the soul has its own knowing of that which created it. And so when we pop out of the flesh, I do believe we are in that knowing and awareness. What a beautiful story. Thank you so much, Patricia,
Thank
for
you.
writing us. We love again hearing from all of you. Please write us if you want to. Now let's get into some of these vibration modification techniques. I'm not going to mention them all because there are quite a few, but we're just going to highlight the ones that I think we should talk about today. Let's start with the body. First being weight, which weight stabilization. So I'm like the last person who's ever going to lecture anybody about weight because I have an issue with weight and I'm gaining the same 20 to 25 pounds every year almost. But finding the space where the body is comfortable, where the body is able to support itself, the body is not overly taxed because it's not getting enough food or it's getting too much food, makes a difference on the overall vibration. So being conscious of the weight and doing what you can to get into that stabilized space. Also, you just mentioned the pineal gland. General detoxing of the body helps the pineal gland to also detox. As you know, as we age, the pineal gland becomes burdened with toxins and chemicals and things that start to change its function. But it's the pineal gland that is the literal hub between the physical and the mental or the spiritual. And as it's breaking down, we lose our connection with all of those things. So it behooves us to really do what we can to wake up our pineal gland and also to detox. So that's some ways. That's a way that we can work with the body to change our vibration, giving up addictions. Do you have any addictions? You know, you strike me, Elenique, as someone who doesn't have any addictions.
You know,
I knew it.
it's funny. I mean, I guess what would be I'm addicted to certain thoughts that I would like to quit
Mm,
that aren't helpful.
that's
I think
powerful.
that's the area of my life that I'm still trying to shift vibratorily. Just certain patterns of thinking that aren't helpful at all and aren't helping me create what I want and are not moving me along the polarity spectrum into where I want to be. So I would say that those are the kinds of addictions that I struggle with are thought
Yeah.
addictions. Physically, no. I used to smoke when I was younger. And I remember one time I went on a trip with my husband before we were married, and we went to Italy. And in Italy at that time, smoking was not only popular, it's like everybody smokes, in Italy. And even now, a lot of people still smoke in Italy, but back then it was just everybody. And we were just felt so at home because this was during the time that smoking was not good, wasn't allowed anymore, right? Everybody looked down on you when you lit a cigarette. So there we were smoking like chimneys to our heart's content, just like, yes, we're in a place, we're not judged. It's so chic, we're smoking. I pretty much got like bronchitis or something from how much I smoked on that trip. And when I got back, I went to bed, coffee, drinking like, cough suppressants. And I woke up in the morning and I remember I went outside to the patio. I made my coffee. I grabbed my pack of cigarettes and I was about to light this cigarette with the inability to smoke, like with bronchitis, with my chest, like, just because of the habit. And when I saw myself, it was almost like I had this outer body experience. And I said, oh, wait a minute. I'm not choosing this. This is choosing me. Like, this is running the show for me because I tell myself I choose to smoke, but clearly I don't because who would smoke a cigarette when you have bronchitis and you're going to feel worse? And that day, as my husband, I quit and I have never had a cigarette again because I just got pissed off that I was under, the control of this substance. And I really didn't have freedom. So I think it's just like we said, how do you let go of addictions? By having a perception of the problem from a higher perspective than the one where the problem is existing. How can you let anything go if you're still keeping looking at it with the same vibratory
Hmm.
match? You keep matching, you can't see the problem. But if you can climb a little bit above it by, like what you said, weight I think it's health, right? Just
Hmm.
health. Like,
Hmm.
how are you eating? Do you feel healthy? Do you feel nourished? Do you
Yes.
feel strong? Are you moving your body? Are you oxygenating? Right. And there's a lot of skinny girls that are
Oh,
sick. You know,
100%.
they're
Yes.
not vital. And so I think that now as I've gotten older, I started to realize that what I'm craving is health, vitality, mobility,
Hmm.
sustainable energy, all these things. And if we have that, we can make better choices. We can't make good choices from a depleted state. It's physically impossible. You
Right.
don't have choice when you're in a depleted state.
I think addiction is so interesting because there's a couple of things going on. First, there's a physical addiction. If you're a smoker or a drinker, for example, you have a physical addiction to the substance. And when you notice that you need the substance in order to feel okay in your life, that's when you know that you have an addiction to that substance. Then there's also the mental or the emotional and really the spiritual component of an addiction, which is the message that you're sending to your body every time you pick up the cigarette or every time you pick up your drink or you're drinking too much and you consciously know that this is not good and you do it anyway, you're doing
Mhm.
intentional damage to your body. And as I always say, like your body is always listening. It is always paying attention and it's always receiving whatever messages you're sending to it through your thoughts, but also through your actions. So it's like a twofold damage you're doing, the actual physical issue of the smoking or the drinking or whatever it is, plus the repeated message that I know I'm doing damage, but I'm doing it anyway, which is why with addiction, if you want to raise
Yeah.
your vibration, we recognize how hard it is to quit smoking,
Oof,
even though
it's
you
very hard.
miraculously were able to stop.
No,
My
I think
mom
I
too.
just got so pissed off. Like literally, it was just an anger that came inside of me when I realized how I had been manipulated and how I had manipulated myself into thinking that I was choosing. And the
Hmm.
anger from that was what allowed me to quit that. And there's a million other things I want to quit that I can't, especially thinking. Um, but that was a one off, with I wish I could quit everything like I quit
Well, it's
cigarettes.
it's interesting because I think we get to this place where it's possible to just be healed.
Hmm.
Sometimes you have to work a process in order to receive the healing, which is still a valid healing and it's still a miracle. But other times it's instantaneous. When my mother made the decision after, I don't know, 40 years of smoking to just stop one day, she stopped and she never had the shakes, or I don't know what happens when you quit
Nothing.
smoking. She
Yeah.
never got like super
Wow.
cranky. And at the same time, she stopped drinking and she was an alcoholic. Those two things
Wow.
she stopped at the same time. And I believe God just took those from her because she was ready and she was
Mm-hmm.
willing and she was at this kind of space where she was open to totally change and she wanted to. And boom, it happened. And sometimes that's enough to change the vibration in the body. Maybe you
Yeah.
haven't mastered not smoking yet. Maybe you haven't put down the addiction, whatever it is for you, but to make the decision that I will, that I'm ready, that I'm open to receive the healing, to release this or to stop the addiction, sometimes is enough to shift the vibration in the body. So start
Yep.
somewhere if you've got an addiction,
Yep.
even
Yep.
with your thoughts, whatever that is. Drink water.
Yes.
Drink water too. Like I always say, drink your body weight in ounces, pure water ounces, or half your body weight rather, half your body weight in pure water
Looking at my
ounces.
looking at my water bottle right now. I'm
Plus
like, how
20
many
ounces.
ounces is that?
Let me spit this out. Yeah. So, I mean, if you're 160 pounds, then that's 80 ounces plus 20 ounces. That's where the spiritual person to me should be with their water, because what water does is it conducts energy, it moves it around. And when you're a spiritual person pursuing spiritual things and interacting with divine energy, you need that to be moved around the physical instrument, and water helps you to do that. Eating high vibration foods, getting out, moving your body, getting in the sunshine, getting out in nature, touching grass, putting your feet in the grass, breathing up from the planet, from Gaia, filling yourself with that. And also getting massages. This is my favorite one to change a vibration. Go
Yes.
have somebody touch your body and move stuff around. Because before
Mm,
it physicalizes as a pain, the energy is in the
yeah.
space of that and the place of that. And if you've got somebody doing therapeutic touch or massage, that's a great way to raise your vibration. In your mind, there's also ways to change your vibration. First and foremost, I wrote down God self identification. Here I go
Love.
again, always needing to be a God self and confidence. But what that means is really understanding yourself in the divine world of spirit, knowing how powerful you are and creative you are, and being confident in your I am that I am. So if you can get to that place in your mindset and in your vibration, that's you kind of working up the spiral, getting closer and closer to God, to spirit, understanding
Right.
who it is that you are, studying, fellowship with other people, doing things like what we're doing, talking about concepts, metaphysics, and trying to have an understanding, moving in the energy of all of this is so good for changing the mindset and the vibration of the mind. As a hypnotherapist, do you have some suggestions for folks who need to kind of switch out of mindset, lower mindsets that keep us kind of tethered to this material world into these higher spaces and places of vibration?
I think the most important thing is to start. I think what becomes overwhelming for people is that when you feel you're in a really deep rut, or even if you're not even in that deep a rut, but there's just this thing you can't shake. You keep thinking about this thing that you can't shake, or this problem that won't go away, or this person that's, that you can't stand, or whatever the problem is. And that continues to strengthen that problem or that problem state, right?
Mm,
Because it's a vibratory state. So what I've done in my life that has been very helpful to me is to stop looking for perfection and stop looking for a perfect solution or this desire to go from 0 to 100, right? So if you can just improve your sense of love with yourself, or even if you only change one thing in your diet that makes you feel better,
mm,
even if you just add in one green juice a day, you don't need to quit and change everything about your life in one day. You
right.
don't. Just put one thing. If you want to meditate, you don't have to sit for an hour and meditate. Just meditate 5 minutes in the morning. And what does that even mean? Because I hate using that word in a way because I think it's been bastardized in a way. This idea that people have so many definitions for meditation and what it means. To me, meditation and prayer in a lot of ways is synonymous. It's just being in a stillness, trying to let go of attachment to any kind of thoughts and connecting with that higher presence and that peace within you that you recognize when you're still and when you're okay. And we all know what that is. We've all had that tiny moment of peace, even if the rest of it is a train wreck. So just trying to connect with that peace every day a little bit long, a little bit longer, a little bit longer. So just have compassion for yourself, have grace for yourself, give yourself time to evolve and to grow and to move. If you can give yourself compassion, that is the beginning of healing for me. Because compassion for yourself is forgiveness for yourself, forgiveness for everything that you've been through, all the stories that you told yourself that probably aren't true, that are hurting you. But you're just holding space for that little person, that child that's still in there, having those child thoughts, utilizing those child techniques to deal with pain or suffering or fear. So just hold a little bit of space for yourself. I think that's the best place to start.
I love that. That's beautiful. And I think so many of us have the ability to have grace for other folks, right? Or to have compassion for other folks. But when it comes to us, we hold ourselves to such high or low standards, really, low standards
Mhm.
of love. And we're talking about the polarity again, right? And we want to move that. We want to move along away from the pole of hatred or judgment or anger or fear. We want to move to the pole of love and compassion and grace. And we do that through the shifting of the vibration. That is the way that you do it. Affirmations are great to raise your
Mm.
vibration. Shadow work, and this is the one we have to call out shadow work because I think so many spiritual people want that 1 second miracle where I no longer drink and I no longer smoke. They're not really willing to do the process healing or like
Right.
working steps to get the outcome that they want. And that is what shadow work is. Shadow work is essentially becoming conscious to those things that we hold inside of ourselves that do not serve us, that obstruct us. Obstruct us from what? Well, connection to spirit, living a beautiful, joyful, thriving life. These are things like beliefs, ideas or concepts of self that run counter to who it is that we really are as divine beings. These are patterns of thinking, as you've discussed, like narratives that we allow to kind of run through the loop of our mind. These are creating things, and they exist inside of us. These things that are loop because there's a belief inside of us that we hold of ourselves and others. And so shadow work is the work, and I don't like the word work very much. I've got to find a new
Yes.
word for work, but it is the
Shadow exploration.
right, the excavation of the things
Yes.
that you're not conscious to. Some of the things we are conscious to, like I could tell you right now, I got a problem in this area. I know I need to fix it. So there's the
Hmm.
stuff you're conscious to, and it's about getting willing to deal with that. And then there's the stuff you're not conscious to, that you're just habituated to, that you don't even know you're carrying around, that is keeping you from getting where you want to go. So entering into a state of willingness to become conscious to these things that are ready to be released, that is profound, because when you
Hmm.
release them, or when God comes in and takes them from you, which God can and will do, when they're gone, what does that do? It opens up space. Space for what? Well, I would say space for spirit, space for God to come in,
Yes.
to animate, to use you as the instrument of peace, as St. Francis would say. And that is
Yes.
high vibration. But if you want to get there, you got to let go of what you're holding on to. And that can be a very difficult thing for people because they don't want to have to deal with these pains, these beliefs that
Mm.
were probably put into them by their parents or other people who hurt or harmed them. Like it's hard to look at that stuff and deal
It's
with that
hard.
stuff. So you just carry it
It's
around.
painful. And that's why, I mean, that's why I love the work I do with women. I mean, that's why I'm called to it. That's why I thrive in it. And I tell my husband all the time, I'm like, I hate that I even have to charge people because I enjoy it so much. There's nothing you can hold, there's nothing you can experience like watching somebody heal something that has held them back for 30 years. This belief that they can't do this or they're not good enough or they're not worthy of love, of being seen, of being heard. And then you just hold a little space for them with unconditional, loving support, and just give them a couple of tools to just tell a better story. And then you see the light, you see them just emerge out of this darkness, out of this old cocoon of crap, and they just come out and you're like, it's so beautiful. It's like watching somebody being born, watching someone literally be born again to themselves. And that's why I love that whole idea. I understand this idea of born again is looked down upon because of the extremes to which it was taken. But that rebirth, that rebirthing of oneself is the most powerful thing because it's when we get to choose who we want to be. And I think that's the bravest thing we can do as human beings
Hmm.
is to question our story and forge the one that is truly us.
Yes. Amazing. Yes. And some of the most difficult work that I have done, but the most miraculous and beneficial has been just dealing with my stuff and confronting myself and my own thoughts and beliefs. And the easiest way to undo a belief is to bring in the truth, because if that belief is false, that means it's a lie. So you find out what
That's
the
right.
truth is, that's the antidote to it, and that's what you resonate to. But you got to be
Hmm.
brave enough to do the shadow work in the first place. Another thing I wanted to mention, because this really does affect people's vibration, and I don't think people realize how much they're affected, is relationships. The
Oof.
people that we choose to surround ourselves with. And even if you think it's not a choice because I'm married to the guy, I can't get away from him, or these are my
Hmm.
actual kids and I'm responsible for them, it's still a choice. Okay. It's still a choice that we make to surround ourselves with people. And some of the people in our life are so toxic and so judgmental and see us through such kind of a narrow perspective. They don't see the possibility of us. You know that Jesus said a prophet is never accepted in his hometown. So these are your
Yeah.
family members, the people who grew up with you, saw the worst of you. They're never going to see you as the possibility and potential that you are. Some of these people are changing your vibration every single day that you're around them. Their vibration is so strong in its negativity that it's impacting your vibration, which may be positive, but just not as strong. Have you ever known somebody who is so negative and so powerfully negative, they don't even have to speak, but you feel the energy of this person?
Absolutely. I have,
Don't you think
unfortunately.
that energy, the energy we've learned through the Kybalion, that energy is moving.
Yeah.
Everything vibrates and it's moving in your direction and you're absorbing it and it's changing who it is that you are. And so I
Yes.
always challenge people to review their relationships and take stock and inventory of how people are affecting them. And that's a good place to start. And
Well, for sure. And we talk about that in human design that when you have a lot of open centers, when you
mm,
don't have you know, when you're an open person, and many of us that are empathic people have these open emotional centers. So we pick up. If you're not in the right environment, you're not going to thrive. If you're not with the right people, you won't, because unless you go through a very intense spiritual discipline of being able to truly recognize what is yours and what is not
mhm,
yours, you're going to confuse it as yours. You're going to take it on as yours. I mean, look at wars, right? We take on other people's fights, other people's grievances, other people's drama, and we continue to create new warriors, right? New people willing to die and fight for old ideologies that don't even fit us anymore. They don't even fit this world anymore. They're so outdated. And yet, the power of being indoctrinated with
mhm,
certain ideas from a very early age means that you don't question it. It's just, this is what it is, even when it's not yours. And so you live in this silent sadness and desperation, just knowing that something's wrong, but everybody else seems to be okay. So I can't speak up and I can't say that I'm not happy or I don't agree with this. And so I think that that's the biggest challenge. And if you are a very sensitive person, you must take care to look around you and ask yourself if the people that you're surrounding yourself with on a regular basis make you feel better or worse
mhm,
after you're with them. Because if they make you feel worse, you better change that or
mhm.
nothing is going to shift for you.
What I
So
tell folks to do
hard to
is
hear.
as like parse it out, organize it by minutes. Who are the 5 people or 10 people that get the most minutes from you? Like you're spending
Mm,
most of your time with these people. So these aren't like necessarily the people you love the most or the people who are more important to you. These are the people that are actually getting your physical time. Who are they? Write it down on a piece of paper and then go into a space of meditation or stillness, as you've said, and pull the first name and sit with your body's reaction to that name. Your
that's a
body
great
will tell you
idea.
immediately.
Mm-hmm.
I tell this story often that I would do this review of like these 5 or 10 people seasonally just to check in, like, well, how is this affecting me? How do I feel about this? But I never put this one girl on the list because she was my best friend since childhood. And I
Wow.
just knew she was a spiritual person. She was my mentor. Like, she would always be high vibration and good for me. And how that one time I put her name on the list. And when I went into meditation and I brought her name forward, my body's reaction was this tightening and tensing up, like my
Wow.
throat. It was such a physical reaction. And of course, I recognized what it was. And I was so flummoxed. I was like, what's going on? Which caused me to go deeper into reflection and meditation, ask more questions about this. And ultimately, what I determined was that this person was actually pretty darn toxic to me
Mm,
and
mm.
for me. And so that caused me to make a decision about how many minutes she was going to get because I was giving her so much of my time. Oh my God, parasitical if it was anything. So I said,
Wow.
okay, I'm going to go from 7 hours a week or whatever down to 5. Just a little bit of a boundary. But when I enforced it, and when I suggested maybe we not talk here or there, or I need a little space, do you know this person reacted so terribly? She
Wow.
ultimately extinction bursted and ended the
What?
relationship because I put forth a little boundary. Yeah. So it's amazing what you will find if you ask the right questions and you notice how your body will always tell you how this person is affecting you in a vibratory way. And some of it
And
will
we can be
surprise you.
addicted. We can be addicted to people that make us feel bad about ourselves because they
Hmm.
reaffirm our own unworthiness thoughts of unworthiness, beliefs of unworthiness. See, it's a key, right? It's there's these things that are attracting each other. So when you're with a person that's very toxic, it's not the person in and of themselves, but what is it in you that is matching that feels like they deserve to receive that, to
Mm.
be in the energy of that, right? Like a punishment.
Mhm.
That's something else to explore. If you do find that there's a person in your life toxic and you don't know why you keep them around, assuming that you have choice to limit or set parameters on this person, a good question to ask is, how do I feel after I'm with them? And does
Mhm.
that resonate as something I need to heal? Right? If that person makes you feel dumb or not good enough, or you know, undeserving, or whatever the case may be, then you need to sit with that and be like, wow, is that how I feel about myself? Are they a mirror for me? Because when you heal that in you, the person will disconnect. I think I told you the other day about that thing with the space station, and when they come with the shuttle and there's like this thing and it's like right, like it just goes in perfectly. That fit is how we fit with the people we attract. That's why they're around. And when the vibration just doesn't match, it's just
Mhm.
gonna let go. And you wonder, where did those friends go? Why don't I talk to that person anymore? And it's not even that you're mad. It's not even that anything happened. They just go away from you when there's no need for them anymore.
We can actually reference the law of correspondence here because what's
Yes.
showing up on the outside is indicative of what's happening on the inside. And as
Mm-hmm.
you move along the spectrum of this polarity and you're using your vibration, raising your vibration, you will notice that things in your outpictured reality, they're going to shift and change. And the first thing that you're going to notice is people are going to come and they're going to go. And
Oh
that's all
yeah.
about what's happening inside of you. For spirit, this is the last section where we can focus on
Mm-hmm.
vibration. And again, any change you make in any of these, body, mind, or spirit, even if you just choose one thing, I'm going to stop my addiction. That's going to have a resonant effect, a reverberating effect in all of the systems and in the whole of who you are. So, some things you can do to raise your vibration in your spirit is meditation, as you talked about, prayer, which is very similar, mantras and centering prayers, which is a kind of prayer, also a kind of worship, study. I think it's so important to actually fill your brain ball with good food. Think on these things that are lovely, says the Bible. And there's a reason for that, because the more of the good stuff you put into your brain, the higher your mental and your spirit will vibrate. Fellowship, hanging
Mm.
out with people who aren't toxic AF and who have good hearts and who are a match for the things that you're
Uh,
interested in is so important. Like, we're going to be starting a study group for A Course in Miracles. That's a great way to meet other folks who are into bettering themselves and connecting with spirit. That's fellowship.
yes.
Presence. Do you want to explain to folks what presence is?
Gosh, to me, presence is just fully being in the moment as it is, without wanting to change anything, without wanting to do anything, really just being in stillness, fully 100% aware. And something I love to do to practice is I go outside and I pick a tree. And I will just look at the tree and I will try to hold my attention on it as if absolutely nothing else matters except that tree. Not telling myself a story about, oh, the leaves are little or the leaves are big or it's green or it's moving or it's still, but just taking it in with no filter on me. Just letting that tree just come in, just come all the way in. And when you do this and you practice it, something incredible happens. It's almost like that tree and you merge and you get this joy, almost like as if you're crazy, that you're having this joy of just looking at this tree and you're going, why am I so emotional and moved? Because you're there.
Mm.
That's when you're not in a story. And you can do that with a loved one too. You can do that with a person that you love. Like, don't think, oh, they're handsome or they're not handsome, or just have no thoughts. Just be with the person's energy and marvel at the unique miracle that that person is, and they're there with you, all of them, the whole of them, with no story. I think there's nothing that can improve relationships more than to do that with your partner. Just hold them in actual regard as they are and leave all the stories that you tell yourself, good and bad, and just be with who's there. Because who's there is a miracle. It's your miracle. So I think those are things that are helpful for presence.
I love that. Presence is being in a state of awareness and connectivity with everything and all that is, and just being still in that moment, not needing to identify or organize any of it or put a
Yeah.
label on it or articulate anything. It's more of a gnosis, right? It's a
Yes.
feeling truth that happens when you're just still and present with it all.
Mm-hmm.
And also, touch leads to presence. Did you
Yes.
know that wherever you touch yourself on your body, that's where your consciousness and attention goes to, which is why we
Mm-hmm.
see so many statues in antiquity, in the prayer mudra, touching the heart, because they're activating, they're becoming
Yeah.
conscious to the area of the heart and being present in the heart. And so, touching also helps us to get present as well. But practicing presence is a wonderful way to raise your vibration. And there's a few others, but I want to end with one that I think is super fun, which is creativity. And I think creativity is
Oof.
spiritual because
Yes.
creativity comes from creation. Creation comes from creator. And we were made in the image of our creator, and we were made to create. And I love when somebody says to me, well, I don't have a creative bone in my body. I don't like to sing. I don't do poetry. I don't do anything. But I'm like, do you cook? Do you like to garden? Do you like to do lawn care? Do you like to mow? Like, there's something that you do because everybody has this impulse inside of them. There's something that you do that when you do it, you kind of get lost in that space of timelessness. For me, that's writing. When I write, I get lost in this timeless space because I've popped up out of materiality truly, and I'm in this mental state of creation, manifestation that's being downloaded into the instrument of who it is that I am. But I get that from cooking too. I get so
Yeah.
creative. I like a little dash of this, a little smidge of that. And I'm so filled with joy when I present it to my family. Super mundane and domestic, but it's creative. So finding what
Yeah.
that is for you, what's creative for you, and then doing that more puts you in the pipeline of creation and creator. It really does allow you to be present with creator because that's the nature of your creator, is to create. When you create, you're doing what your creator taught you or made you to do.
And when you create, you are present.
Yes.
So that's why you're in contact with the creator. Even beyond the act of what you're doing, because you are creating, you're not self conscious, you're not telling a story, you're literally just so into what you're making. Oh, salt, pepper. There's just this thing happening there where you're fully there with the sauce and the heat and the smells and the sounds, and you're there. And therefore, you're connected. So it's all vehicles, right? Our creativity is a vehicle back to God,
Yes.
you
And the
know?
value is not in what has been created. The
Exactly.
value is in the act of creation. I've met many
Mm-hmm.
people who say, "Oh, I just love painting, but my paintings are terrible, so I don't do it." I'm like, "No,
Was that
paint."
me?
No, it
I
wasn't.
told you.
But paint for the act of painting, paint for the act of creation, because if you couple the act of creation with your spiritual senses, you will notice that while you are painting this painting that no one will ever buy or even see, you are so connected to God. You can also download, channel, become inspired and motivated, get great ideas, innovations. All of this kind of streams into your consciousness as you're in the state of creation. It's not necessarily about what comes out of it. It's about you being present and acting within the creativity. High vibe,
Completely
baby.
agreed. High vibe all the way.
High vibe. And so the Kybalion in this chapter obviously is talking again about how everything does vibrate. And the denser the vibration, the lower it is, the more material it is, the more
Mm-hmm.
matter it is. The
Mm-hmm.
higher the vibration, the more spiritual it is. And you kind of go up in the poles, right? You go from the lower of the material or the matter, and you start vibrating higher and higher, and you move through those planes of matter, then into the mental, which we already discussed last time, all of those different planes of the mental. And then you rise above into the planes of the spirit, which is again where we have the archangels, the masters, and these hierarchies of beings that we cannot even articulate as we get higher and higher and closer to God. It is
Yeah.
about your vibration and
Mm-hmm.
changing that.
Definitely. It's all vibration.
Everything is vibration. You know,
Hmm.
I asked the question once of spirit to try and organize it in my mind because I'm not a scientific thinker. Like what's because we use these terms so interchangeably in the metaphysical community, like energy, we use that. Sometimes we use vibration, sometimes we say frequency. And the way I organized it, I think is pretty helpful. When we speak about energy in terms of spirituality and divine energy, what we're really talking about is consciousness,
Hmm.
prime consciousness. And so when we talk about the energy of God, we're talking about the consciousness of God, the all that is, the structural makeup of that consciousness. Vibration is what happens when God moves. God was before God ever moved. God existed.
Right.
And then God moved and began to create. And he or she did that and vibrated in doing so. That's the movement of the
Mm.
consciousness. And the frequency is the off gassing, the effect of the vibration. The
Mm.
consciousness chooses to create and in doing so vibrates. And as we vibrate, we emit a frequency. It's like when I walk across the room from this place to that destination, you can hear my footsteps and the wood
Hmm.
beneath my feet gives way, it goes in and out. And there's things that are happening as a result of my vibration and my choice to move. And that is the frequency. And the reason it's important to understand that is because the frequency is the story of your vibration. It's telling the story of how you are existing right now and how you're creating, but your frequency is what the universe hears. And so when we're talking about manifestation, the universe is responding to the message of the frequency, which tells the story of the vibration. And it's the universe that returns unto you according to your frequency, according to your frequency, and thereby also according to your vibration, how you're existing. That's how the universe returns your conditions and experiences. So energy is consciousness. The I am that I am, crystal prime, the oversoul of crystal, that's my energy. Crystal in my existence right now, this is how crystal's vibrating. This is my incarnation, how I'm moving about the cabin in my life. And then the frequency is the transmission to the universe that causes the universe to bring me the details and conditions of my tomorrow. How do you like that?
I love it. Amen. I love that. It's perfect. And I think it's true. I think it's totally true. And sometimes I like to think about it like music, like dancing. And when you hear somebody singing and they're not exactly on beat, or they're dancing, but the body's doing one thing and the music's doing another thing, and you're like, something's off. I think that that's us. Sometimes we're dancing with the music, and then it's seamless and it comes together and it looks beautiful and it looks effortless no matter what it is. Even when we're dancing with difficult music. But then there are times when we want to do what we want to do no matter what music is playing. And that's when it looks choppy and broken. And that's when frequency is affected because the frequency is not matching the opportunity or the situation as it is presenting.
Mm. The frequency is not matching the
The
opportunity
opportunity.
as it is presenting. Wow. Okay. So that's me trying to simplify what I read and offer some resources to help us to actually begin to change our vibration, because it's one thing to have book knowledge and I read it, I get
Mhm.
it. It's quite another to figure out how I can apply those changes to my life and actually see a different kind of an outcome. Now, is there anything that you want to go into from either of these chapters? I know in the chapter on polarity, there was kind of an interesting part where they talked about induction.
Yeah, you know what? But at the risk of being confusing, because I find that what you've said today is so
Mhm.
helpful and valuable and specific and implementable. And that's something that I wanted to ask our viewers to share with us. In what way is it most valuable for them for us to talk about these books? Is
Mm.
it to really go through them with a fine-tooth comb and explain all the ideas, or is it more to highlight the key ideas and then explain a little bit about what that means to us and how we utilize it, create resources like what you've created that you're going to post in the Facebook group about how do you change that vibration in body, mind, and spirit, right?
Mhm.
So I'm just very curious today to get that feedback from everybody. We would really welcome it. And in our we do this because we love to learn, and there's a million books we want to read that we haven't read, and some that we have that we want to read again. But honestly, it's also just about sharing knowledge and sharing, learnings with everybody in the easiest to digest, most enjoyable way. So please let us know what you find to be the way that this is most digestible, most exciting, most, wonderful for you.
Absolutely. I think that I enjoy personally getting to meteor metaphysical concepts, learning about them. Like I love getting my mind blown. Like I never thought about it that way, or I never even knew that was possible. Like I love getting to those concepts, but the breaking down of those concepts in digestible, like in a way that people can understand, including me.
Yes.
I sometimes I come to the pod, I'm like, I hope Elenique's got something for me today because I did
Oh.
not understand any of that. So, but like it's got to be digestible. It's got to be utilizable and simplified.
Hmm.
So, I mean, so both things can happen at the same time. We can tackle these meaty concepts, but like in a way where we all can kind of understand what's happening, right?
Totally. I want it, it's when they say like no one will be turned away for an inability to pay. When you see that on websites, like it's no matter what. I feel like no matter where you are in your spiritual path right now, how much you've studied or how little, how if you're new to this or you're a how do they call it when a person has a long time doing something, a veteran, right? Like
Oh, right.
you're a veteran skier or whatever. I feel like this place, this group, this miraculous thinking basket or container is for everyone, no matter where you are, in your spiritual journey. And you'll take it. And we're really going to be looking to choose books in the future that speak on multiple levels,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
That are accessible on multiple entry points, because I've had that with quite a lot of books that the first time I read it, I got one thing. And then I read it 10 years later and I'm like, this is the same book. Like, this is deep, right? But it's only after 10 years that I was able to really understand what that hidden message was. So
Yep.
I think that that's what we hope to do for people, right? For
Mhm.
all levels and all interests, something for everyone.
Absolutely. Yes. And so the next book we're going to be doing is The Path of Light by Robert
Right
Perry.
here.
I think we start that though in January. And as
Yes.
we have organized it, we've got 2 more weeks in the Kybalion. And then we have
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks right around Christmas where we can kind of talk about whatever we want to talk about.
I like that.
Yeah, and I'm wondering what y'all want to talk about. Like, is there something that you
Yes.
guys would like us to double back around on and kind of go deeper into? Or is there a new subject or topic or question that you have? I'm thinking, though, because we're going to be so close to New Year's, that we should like talk a little bit about manifestation. And I know that we've got a workshop in the hopper right now about 360
Yes.
vision boards and things like that, but like maybe
Mm,
just like a something to whet our appetite around manifestation and
that'd
things
be
we
great.
can do like right around the new year because people are
Mm-hmm.
obsessed with
Mm-hmm.
what kind of changes they're going to make and resolutions they're going to have. So I think the
That would be
final two
fun.
weeks, yeah,
That would be fun. We'll just make it fun. Like
fun,
in when you're in school and like the last week of school, you don't really do the hard work.
yeah.
Everything's just like making socks, like making art projects. That's what we have to do. Just have a good time the last couple of weeks
And
of the
maybe we
year.
can do like a ritual. We can do a releasing
Yes.
ritual. We can bring
Ritual.
out some candles. We can write down what we want to manifest. Maybe we just have some fun. We'll just have some
Yeah,
fun.
let's have a good time.
Yeah, it should always be a good time. So we do
Yeah.
acknowledge though that this book has been a bit dense and it's been a bit much. I know for me and Eleni. Like,
Oh my God.
it's been a lot, but I do appreciate and I'm thankful for the challenge and for learning new things. And we will
Mm-hmm.
just continue to move through the material and be grateful for it. What else can you
Absolutely.
do?
Yeah.
Well, we
Ride
want
the
to
wave. Ride the wave.
Yep, it's taking us somewhere, and we're going to get there.
Yeah.
We want to remind you that we have an Instagram, Miraculous Thinking. You can also write us. We love hearing from you. I just love getting a
So
little
much.
letter or a question. And if you want to write to us at Miraculous Thinking, one word, at gmail.com. That's miraculousthinking at gmail.com. Links are in the description. Join us on Facebook, join us on Instagram, but stay connected with us because good things are coming in 2023. All right, everybody, you have a beautiful rest of your day or night, as the case may be, and we will see you next time for Miraculous Thinking. Bye, guys.
Bye bye.